Einstein Prize in Physics, and he's the one who created the word black hole, referring to this places in space where gravity is essentially absolute. And he is, I mentioned that a greater physicist than Einstein was Richard Feynman. He is the professor and mentor of Richard Feynman, who won two Nobel Prizes in physics. John Archibald Wheeler said that, because I know John Archibald Wheeler, he said that every one of these facts that I'm telling you about physics is a correct fact in physics. And he also went on to say that in general, the implications of the world that I say is the world that exists on the basis of these facts of physics is consistent with the way he sees the world being. So this is essentially, to me, a very strong proof that I'm at least not on the really wrong track with something like this. Now, I know for people who are not believers in God, to hear that there is a scientific proof of the existence of God and hear this, they would like to disprove some of the facts. They can't disprove any of the facts. They might like to then say, well, and which a few scientists have said to me, I can't disprove any of your premises, but I don't agree with your conclusion, which is not acceptable in logic, you see. I mean, if you accept the premises, you have by default accepted the conclusion. So you have to take it for what it's worth. So that's really about it. I don't know whether you think it's as amazing as it really is. Some of the things I told you tonight, they probably sound like, oh, this couldn't be true, but it really is all true. I think this one where when this thing goes faster and faster, it gets shorter and shorter until it disappears. I think that sounds like something I find really hard to believe, but it really is true. And that's the way the world really is. So that's really about it. I don't know whether you think it's as amazing as it really is. Some of the things I told you tonight, they probably sound like, oh, this couldn't be true, but it really is all true. I think this one where when this thing goes faster and faster, it gets shorter and shorter until it disappears. I think that sounds like something I find really hard to believe, but it really is true. That's the way the world really is. So anyway, that's my scientific proof of the existence of God. That's a little bit of the history of science that got to this proof. I hope you found these ideas exciting. That they are. Part of what I'm really saying is, you don't know where you can go with science. I mean, you think you might just have some boring old job in science and sit there in a laboratory, and then wonder if you're somebody to come up with another proof that God exists, or come up with a greater finding than Einstein. You see, you just don't know what the future holds. When I was young, I never expected to find a scientific proof of the existence of God. The last thing I would have ever thought. I mean, I'm not even really a physicist, although I've been trained in physics. I'm a child clinical psychologist. So, what your future holds, absolutely unlimited. And your potential, I guarantee you, is much greater than you think. Whoever in here thinks they are the most wonderful person in the world, you are even better than that. It's really true. So I hope you will really make the most out of your futures. And, learning. It was mentioned earlier, I spent 14 years as a full-time university student. I actually intended, towards the end of that, to be a university. I thought I might as well be a university student all my life. Why ever take a job? Why not just be a student? It's such a nice life. Learning is so much fun. the reason I quit going to university was I found after 14 years that going to university was really slowing me down. I could learn a lot more on my own. Anything you do with practice, you get better at. So I got really good at learning after 14 years as a full-time university student. And I went away and spent years studying different areas that would be taught at university with the university textbooks. And I estimate that you could, once you know how to really learn, you could probably learn the equivalent of a 4-year university degree in 6 months. And so, like every 6 months, you can get like a new university degree's worth of knowledge stuck into your head. And I have, probably it would be true to say that in all my years since I've been a university student, I have studied absolutely every day of my life. And I still study. I don't want anyone to feel sad for me for this, but I just mentioned. No. What I'm going to see now, I don't want to tell you really seriously. And I'm actually dying of an illness. And almost 2 years ago, the doctor said I had 3 months to live. So instead of feeling bad about it, I thought, well, I'm going to get as much out of this as possible, right? And I still study every day, even though the doctors think that I'm going to die any day. 2 years later, I still work here 7 days a week, go around, travel to different countries and give talks about these things. So, once you really get a feeling for how exciting knowledge is, there's so much knowledge out there, you never get your desire for knowledge fulfilled. There's more knowledge out there than you can ever get. I've got such a tiny little bit of what's out there. I'd like to live another 1,000 years and study for another 1,000 years and fill my head with another 1,000 years worth of knowledge. Because who knows where you would go? As I pointed out, I never thought I'd get to a scientific proof of the existence of God. But because I just kept going and going and going, putting lots of knowledge together. And by the way, I hope you understand the meaning of this thing I'm going to say. The more you know about anything, the more you know about everything. Because you find out that knowledge is linked. So you find out something in one area, then you study another area, and you know more about the first thing you studied. And once you know more about the first thing you studied, you automatically know more about the second thing. And it's just a snowball effect. And if you learn enough knowledge, you get to know almost everything. Often when I give talks, I'm asked questions that I've never heard the question before in my life, and I've never thought about what the answer might be. But I know the answer because I can put different bits of knowledge together and derive an answer right there on the spot for something that I never knew before. So I learned something too. So I hope some of this will encourage you to not waste your lives. Going to university, what a wonderful experience it can be. Also, it can be a dangerous experience. Don't be going out there thinking everyone in the world is going to be a really nice, moral, good influence, because you're going to come across some really bad influences in your life and in universities. Try and stay away from them and stay true to what is right in morality and what is right in your relationship with God. And you'll have both a happy life and a life full of knowledge, and I would assume great success and wonderful futures, and hopefully you could be part of transforming the world into a much nicer place than it is now. So that's about it. I think we may have some time for some questions, and I thank you very much for inviting me here. I appreciate very much getting the opportunity to speak with you, and the attention that you paid, I appreciate it very much. And you've been a really wonderful audience, so thank you, my dear brothers and sisters.
For many of us, religion is really a theoretical area. As for my experience, when I was young, I was taught to accept what I was told about God and not to ponder upon it, because apparently it's beyond our capabilities. But now, it is put in a language that we understand. Because in this room, it is full of people who are going to be future scientists, future engineers, who have been taught from an early age to think logically, to believe in facts. And that has been hard to apply when it comes to God. But now it seems that we've gotten a new angle, a new outlook, and I think we all should be grateful to Professor for this new insight into God.